Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another cold-ass day in Colorado where I regret pulling the heater out of my car. Alright, so today we're going to talk about engine swaps, and specifically motor mounts for engine swaps. I got two different ones for you. Let's say we're going to specifically talk about V8 or V6 or even V4. I've seen a couple of them. It's like a Saab Sonnet. I think that's what it is, of the V4, with a rear-wheel drive layout. Putting motor mounts in pretty much anything is not impossible. It's really not even that hard. It is a little time-consuming sometimes, and the first one that you do is going to be more difficult than any one that you do after that. And I mean that honestly, because it took me 6 months to do the motor mounts in the Vic, and people are gonna do, well, it took 6 months. Yeah, I had a fucking job, and a life, and a farm, and animals, and my car was not a priority, and it was literally last thing on the fucking list, and I was tinkering with it, and I couldn't figure it out, and it was my first one, and it's the first car I've ever built. So yeah, it took me a minute. So when I say 6 months, I mean it took me 6 months. The ones for the Camaro took me 8 hours. Okay? Once you get it down and you figure out what you're doing, it's not hard at all. So the first thing that you're gonna do is you're gonna have a chassis. You're gonna have a roller, right? You need to look at that roller. Then what I do is I use the factory transmission mount. So in the Crown Victoria that I'll show you guys here in a minute, I used the factory 4R70W transmission crossmember, completely untouched. It is unaltered. In the Camaro, I used the factory TR6060 transmission crossmember, unaltered. Okay? Once you do that, and you have that good to go, whether you have it or not, you need to figure out a transmission crossmember. Okay? I can't help you with that. I haven't ever done one of those, never done a custom one. I just rely on whatever the factory has, and I've lucked out so far. Okay? So if you get that far, then you need to attach your engine to the bell housing. Okay? And you need to hang it. You need to figure out where you want it. Like this is. This is just sitting here, and I'll show you here in a minute what it's sitting on. And I did the same thing with the Vic, and it allows you to see what is going on. You're going to pull the engine back out, but it allows you to see what's going on. Now let me flip you around and show you in the Camaro what's going on and what I mean by that, and then we'll go outside and I'll show you the Vic. So on the Camaro, this is the factory Camaro motor mount. Same thing on this side, right? And for anybody that knows small block Chevys, these two pads right here are the motor mount bolts, and there's one down in the middle down there. And you can now see that they are forward of the motor mount there, okay? And that is something that you can work with. I will show you that here in a little bit. Now, if you get yourself into a conundrum with something that you can't fucking work with, this piece of shit right here, pretty sure I can find pictures. And let me put some pictures in right here.
You're only one. You choose it, don't lose it, don't let confuse it. Only then you'll be God. Yeah.
the frame, instead of being flat or having a mount like this to work on, it was really fucked up, and I hated it. And when you took the motor mount off the frame, it did this weird like ka-chunk, and it didn't work for me. So I cut it flat, and I decided that I was going to use a 1983 Ford E350 factory C mount. Okay, so I got that, the factory motor mount, and I bolted it to the engine, and I set the engine down in the car, and I marked around it, and I picked the engine back up, and I drilled it out, and I put the engine in. Okay, and I did that without an oil pan because I was fucking stupid. So when I tried to put the oil pan on it, it didn't fit. So I had to make motor mounts that were longer, and I can put those in like right here. But at the end of it, it ended up working. So we can go out here and look at her, because it's cold as shit. I'm not gonna stay out there very long though. This is my 1996 Ford Crown Victoria that I swapped a 460 big block into. You can see that I flattened it, and underneath this is a factory rubber motor mount. This is the factory mount that would have bolted to the 460. I made a plate to it, bolted it to it, and welded it. And then I made a tube that goes up and mates to a plate that actually bolts to the engine. And then I mated the two. Something like that. I don't know. There we go. I can barely get you guys in there. Okay. So that's what that looks like on this. And you go underneath it, there's only that much room. Okay? And that's all you need. I've never had an issue with this entire setup. Never once. So now, with the knowledge that I've learned from this, we need to go inside and figure out motor mounts for that. Alright, so the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to make a plate, and you're going to put these 3 holes in it. Now, regardless if you leave it this size, if your motor mount is right there, or for me, I moved it out, you know, yay big or whatever, okay, so that it would mate to the motor mount. And then I made a plate for the bottom one, which ended up looking something like this when it was done. Something like that. Now, why does that have a notch in it? Well, that's because there's other things that you need to consider, like the headers or whatever exhaust that you're going to run. Now, being that I placed the motor mounts where I wanted on this, I knew that the factory cast iron manifolds were going to go over them and behind it. And at some point I'm going to build my own headers for it, so that doesn't matter. With this, I had to figure out what I was going to do for headers. Now clearly, nobody is swapping a 305 into a 5th gen Camaro, so there's no small block Chevy swap headers for this. So your choices are, figure it out, boy. And for figure it out, we're gonna go with the truck headers that came off of this car, or off of this engine that is in this car. These were off of a square body Chevy pickup. It doesn't matter 2 or 4-wheel drive. If you go look at the Summit catalog, they're the exact same thing. They fit both of them. These do fit in the car, okay? So I put these in here, and then I started finagling stuff around it, and I made cardboard templates that look like something like this.
Like that. Like that. Lay your arms around me and stay with me. Like that. Lay your arms and stay with me, baby. Like that. Lay your arms around me and stay with me.
And once you get those cardboard templates done, you can move it over to metal. Okay, now let's see if I can kick this where you can't see the other one. This is the driver's side motor mount. These 3 holes bolt to the engine, and this bolts to the LS motor mount. And it's all tied together. It's welded backside and front side. And this is a sturdy fucking piece. Now, all of these weird notches and stuff that are taken out of it are to fit that header. That header doesn't have any issues with the steering column, and it doesn't have any issues with anything else. So as long as it didn't interfere with that, it wasn't going to be an issue. This was a motherfucker to make. That sucked. The passenger side, not an issue at all. This side, exactly the same design, but it's only got one ka-chunk out of one side for the header. This is supposed to look like that, okay? But this is all the shit that was cleared out for the headers. So let me get these in the car installed, and then we'll get the headers on it, and we'll see how it looks. So, bolted to the factory LS mount, bolted to the engine. And it's the same thing on the other side. Okay, bolted to the LS mount, bolted to the engine. Now you would think that this is sitting on its own, but it's not. Because I had to worry about the rack and pinion. I put this little metal box in here between the oil pan and the rack and pinion. And that is the only thing holding the engine up right now. So as soon as I knock this out, then it will fall the 1/4 inch or so or whatever that it is going to fall, and then it will be sitting on its own. So let me do that. Alright, now it's sitting under its own weight. See. Hold on. See the clearance between the rack? Okay, that was the whole point of that. Now it's actually not going anywhere. It's fully solidly mounted. Okay, let me set you guys back up, get these installed, I'll show you how that looks.
Drawing aside, I can't wait to start. You should call the police.
Alright, there you go. Now it has headers. And yes, they do fit. And they fit around that stupid complicated motor mount that I made for this side. And then on the passenger side, it leaves enough room for the starter and all the wiring down in that pocket. And there is ample room between the oil pan and the steering column. This thing's in here, and it ain't fucking going nowhere. So this is a real thing. It's not fraud, and yes, I am doing it. Let me think of a couple questions that you guys had. Is it a flood car? No. But it doesn't have a title, it's rat infested, and the wiring harness is eaten, and I didn't get it with an engine. So it might as well be a flood car. Why a 305? Because I have it. Why would I do this? Because I'd rather that be in there and drive it around than shove it around. Because I shoved the Vic around for 3 years, and that shit sucked. Not gonna do it. It's fake because it doesn't have a distributor in it. Well, there you go. It's got a distributor in it. So, I don't know what the next project is. This is probably gonna come back out of here so that we can take it to the car wash and do all that shit and figure out the clutch in it. And then we're gonna bulkhead the gas tank, put a mechanical fuel pump back in it, and send it. So, we'll see you guys soon with more updates for this thing. This is the originator of all this shit. He's got, what was it, 351 Cleveland in a Cougar? Yeah. 351 Cleveland in a Cougar. We've done S10s. We've done Chevy Loves. I think he had a Nova when I was real little. We've done like literally 9 square bodies. This is just what we enjoy. We don't enjoy fuel injection. It's complicated as shit to us. This is simple. Like I can do this in my sleep. So That's how you get a 305 5th gen, and now it has its motor mounts and headers and everything, and it's moving forward with its life. So I'm gonna go to lunch with this guy. I'll get this edited and out to you guys, and we will see you guys soon. Have a good night, and God bless.